Because we no longer read or study our founding documents, we've reached the point where it's become acceptable for part of the population to force or demand that everyone else subsidize their favorite form of entertainment. Why is it okay to take money from people who are struggling to make ends meet and then justify it because we're only taking a little bit more? Government is supposed to be protecting people from theft, not sanctioning it, or worse yet, acting like the neighborhood enforcer. Like Rome before the fall, entertainment was a high priority. In and of itself, entertainment and sports, they aren't necessarily bad. Today, though, many people live to be entertained, and it's gotten incredibly expensive. For example, the recent Super Bowl ticket resale prices averaged $12,000. I mean, let's face it, it's hard to find a good used car for that price. The way things are going today, the vast majority of the public can't afford to attend a single regular season football game. But as we learned in the recent Chiefs press conference, premier athletes deserve premier locker rooms, and the fan experience must be at an all-time best. Somehow, though, our culture struggles to wrap our collective minds around the concept that the business of professional sports should pay for itself. Billionaire owners keep paying their millionaire players more money, but as they want bigger and better coliseums for their teams, rather than pass along the new stadium cost to the consumers, they concoct these schemes that require the general population pay for it, even those who can never afford to attend a game and those who have no interest. It reminds me a little of the John D. Rockefeller quote where he said, "I would rather earn 1% off 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own efforts." Well, Rockefeller was a capitalist who understood the value of others and their contribution to mutual success. But what we're dealing with here is not capitalism. Some people might call it crony capitalism, but I contend that those who tried to attach that word to cronyism decades ago were simply ahead of their time in this game of redefining words. And we are seeing a whole lot of that today from people who want to create a different narrative to fit their agenda. Could you imagine the public response of a group lobby for a tax that would require everyone to subsidize their interest in the riveting sports of croquet or curling or cricket? There was once a common belief that recognized the idea that my liberty to swing my fist ends where your nose begins. And that no longer exists today, so long as you subscribe to the notion that we live in a democracy, which we don't. And thanks to Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, we're guaranteed to never become one. If interested, you can find one of my previous podcasts where I share that according to some people, I am a threat to democracy. Because we no longer read or study our founding documents, we've reached the point where it's become acceptable for part of the population to force or demand that everyone else subsidize their favorite form of entertainment. Why is it okay to take money from people who are struggling to make ends meet and then justify it because we're only taking a little bit more? Government is supposed to be protecting people from theft, not sanctioning it, or worse yet, acting like the neighborhood enforcer. This is like a new form of organized crime, but it's justified because the majority of the people support it. This is not the sign of a healthy republic, but mob rule. It is not remotely capitalism, but a symptom of a bigger systemic problem in our culture. Many people mischaracterize Robin Hood of Sherwood Forest as one who engaged in wealth redistribution, while most people focus on the idea that he stole from the rich and gave to the poor. In actuality, he recovered items taken by the evil Nottingham sheriff who unjustly stole it from the peasants. Essentially, Robin Hood stood up to the bully who abused a position of authority to pad his own pockets. I appreciate the Hunt family. And to you, I want to specifically say and convey that I believe you have done a lot of good for Kansas City. But this is wrong. Simply put, this is another form of cronyism, and I believe that you are better than this. Many people in Jackson County don't care that the industry standard pursues this path of taxation to fund arenas. Just because others do it doesn't make this right. Please reconsider this push for new stadiums on the backs of taxpayers for the next 50 years. As for John Sherman, the current majority owner of the Kansas City Royals, I can't say much. I don't know much about him still, It's not right to expect the taxpayers, many of whom are struggling to make ends meet, to pay between $2 billion and $4.5 billion to build somebody else's fantasy. Remember the principle about personal liberty in one's nose? To be abundantly clear, I don't have the right to become wealthy by taking something that is rightfully yours, even if the majority of the people support my goal, whether it's because they think it's cool or beneficial to the community at large. Had we been teaching our founding documents, we would understand the moral code of self-government. In many situations, it means that just because you can get away with it, a principled individual will use restraint, because at the heart of the matter, they recognize this is taking advantage of others, many of whom have no voice. In this case, the Hunts and Shermans, like other major league sports owners, have convinced local governments to disregard the values of our founders and seek the majority rule to authorize and force public theft of the citizenry. That's what mob rule is, which is precisely why our founders abhorred democracies. It's possible one could challenge the idea of bringing question 1 to the ballot on April the 2nd under the guise that it violates Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. Not that we should justify any form of cronyism, but come on now. This is in the name of entertainment. As much as I love the Chiefs and going to the ballpark, it's wrong to force people on a fixed income or disinterested parties to subsidize your entertainment venture, just as it's wrong to expect everyone to subsidize through taxes the amusement park worlds of fun. If your business model isn't working right, then change your industry. Don't seek to convince voters to aid in the role as your public enforcer. Between now and April 2nd, big businesses, including the Chiefs and the Royals, along with construction companies and other interested parties, are spending millions of dollars to convince you, the taxpayer, to authorize this illegitimate scheme to take money from your neighbors and grandchildren for the next 50 years. Every time they go to the gas pump, grocery store, or movie theater, they will be subsidizing entertainment for people who should be expected to pay for it themselves. Remember this, the people investing in these expensive ad campaigns, along with the government of Jackson County, Missouri, stand to make billions of dollars off you and me. And after what the Jackson County Legislature and Frank White has put us through with our real estate taxes this past year, it's time we tell them your load of straw has finally broken the camel's back. It's just common sense for uncommon times.